So today we'll be talking about IT career paths in Germany. We'll be looking at the opportunities, the pitfalls, and what have you involved in IT and a lot of things you need to know. So I'm so excited to be your moderator for today. My name is Vincent Ubibe, and I'm currently joining in from Ham, and we have a very pretty nice weather here, and I believe you have a nice weather there too. Just grab something to grab something to take care of yourself while we catch fun, we learn, and we get used to ourselves. So in case you notice any problem with my network or communication, do let me know in the chat box. Then while the program is going on, in case you have any question, also let me know in the chat box and in the Q&A section. So while the program is going on, we'll be monitoring both the Zoom connection and also the YouTube connection, so we can be able to synchronize the questions coming from the both sections. Thank you. So before I do a personal introduction, let me also bring in our distinguished guests and do a very brief introduction of them and then their brief profile. So for this program, the IT career path in Germany, we was scheduled to have 4 speakers. So the first person we are expecting today is Oladuni Stella, a senior IT consultant at SAP. John, so forgive my pronunciation, John Opalua, a software developer. Then we have Helen Ladiyisa, a software developer also. Babajide Moibi, sorry for the pronunciation, software engineer. And then my very self, Obigo Vincent, also a software developer. So we also learned, part of the things we learned today is most people are confused. What are the differences between a software developer, a software engineer? A lot of them know the software, but we dwell into that. But for now, I'll create a room for the speakers to introduce themselves. So as the law starts, we start from the lady. So sorry, we start from Oladini. Can you please introduce yourself, please? Sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Oladuni Stella. I live here in Germany. I've been here for the past 20 years. I work for SAP in Waldorf, and currently I run communications for our IT organization.
Okay, so like Babajide to also introduce himself.
All right, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Babajide, but you can just call me Jide. I am right now, I'm in Berlin, but normally I'm from Cologne. I've been in Germany for 12 years. I studied computer science. And professionally, I've been working since 2013, so that's been almost 7 years. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and John, can you please introduce yourself also, and then?
Okay, I'm John Opalua. I'm also a software developer. I studied in Hamburg, and currently now I stay in Lüneburg, like 15 minutes from Hamburg. I had experience now for around about 3 years in software engineering.
So I know we're also expecting Helen. I believe she's still coming. So, but while she's here, I know the viewers will be interested to know what happens in your day-to-day life, like what's your normal work like when you go to the office every day, what you do specifically, and what the flow of work for you is. Are you leading a team, or are you doing front end or back end, or specifically? So before I go into that, is a question. Okay, yeah. So Helen is here. So so Helen, quickly introduce yourself, so kind of know you. Your mute, please. Sorry.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, sure, we can.
Okay. So I'm Ellen Ladi. Having studied electrical computer engineering in Nigeria, I came to Germany in 2017 to do my MSc in IT engineering. And I finished last year, September. I presently work as a software developer in Berlin.
Thank you very much. And I'm Obigo Vincent by name once again. I'm a student and also currently the PRO stroke master of NiSIG NRW. So now want to go one round of question more. When we look at what do you do, because it will help our people to know how to channel the questions, like your day-to-day life. Just briefly you tell us what you do, like in your company when you go to work each day. You're tasked with developing a product, or for example, what specifically you do, to help us be able to know you more briefly. So we start with Babajida at this point, then continue. So Babajida.
All right. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
All right. So I didn't even mention it the other time. So I work as a software engineer, software developer, call it whatever you want to call it. For me, it's still the same. It's just a synonymical term. Mm-hmm. My day, I get to work in the morning. So we have this ticketing system we use called Jira. So we kind of like have these tasks put in place by some other team members. For example, the project manager. So I just have to check the tasks assigned to me. In case I hadn't started another one in the like a day before or something. So I try to understand what this new task are about. If I have some questions, I comment them on the ticket, or I just talk personally to the person that created the task, called the ticket. Then afterwards, I try to understand what exactly the client wants, because my company we provide solutions for clients. Okay. So I'm also not just a developer that just writes code, but I also talk to clients a lot. So I kind of like I have this double position that I do. So basically I talk to clients and I also kind of like write code. So it's more like I'm doing the job of an architect. So when there's a new task or there's a new feature I have to like build, I kind of like discuss it with the clients, talk to them to see what is best for them, if what they actually think is best for them is the best thing to do, or if there's another way, or provide some other solutions for them. Then afterwards, when we would agree on what we want or what we want to do, and then I get up my laptop and I write the code. Okay. Some other days I don't write code at all. I'm basically just making calls or writing emails. These are for me the boring days, because then I'm actually not really creative. I think I'm most creative when I actually write code. And yes, that's what my day looks like. I talk to people. I work a lot with other people, apart from the clients, also my team members. So I'm in close contact with the testers. So the people that actually test my code, that tell me, hey, Babajide, what you've done is not correct. Or in the other side case, it's correct, and we can approve it and deploy it, like get it over to the clients to test it. Yeah, sometimes I also work with the project manager, and so, it's like it's not about just coding. My day is mostly filled with different kind of tasks, and not just only coding. Yeah.
Okay. So John, can you just give us a highlight?
Okay, so I currently work for a startup, and I was fortunate to be among the first team that started the company. And we're still quite a small team of about 10 to 12 people, I guess. And currently my day, I also work with the Jira ticketing system. For me, I'd say 95% programming. Yeah, because I spend my whole day programming. Yeah, so the way it works, the workflow, someone already has the tickets designed, and then I just have to pick up a task, and then yeah, I work on the tax. I work mainly with, I work both on front end and back end. So for the front end tax, yeah, I use the framework of JavaScript, Angular, and then for the back end tax, I use C#, and then yeah, also the database side. Yeah. So, but basically my whole day is programming. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So, Vladimir, can you just tell us what your day is? Because I'm kind of startled, being a consultant, what is it really, what are the things you do when you go to work each day?
So my day is a lot different than the two colleagues who just spoke. My day has a lot of different components, so they're always moving components. I started off as a support engineer working on customer tickets coming to our company. I don't have a software engineering background. Actually, I have no IT background. So I started pretty much from zero. And it was just, trying to get into that mindset. What is it that they do? How do you understand code? That got me where I am. Now I'm in a non-coding role. My job is to make sure that people understand what it is that we do. And my department, basically, we run our internal system. So we're in charge of making sure that 24/7 we are there. If there are escalations, we are in the picture. But then if everything is working, nobody complains, right? Nobody knows that we exist. But the moment things don't work, what is happening and where are we and who are we? And this is my job. And another different components, for example, we are looking at using the Agile methodology. What does it comprise of? You mentioned Jira twice. Yes, this we are using also. How do we understand how this reflects on us? The DevOps, for example, the DevOps methodology, does that work well with us? Do we work well with other companies? So we're in a process of change, and this is where change communication, change management is very important. And this is also something I do. So I run basically events, outside facing events from my department outside. I make sure that information is cascaded down to the employees, and also try and make sure that employee engagement is at a point whereby we feel that the employees understand what is happening in the organization, and they know that they are getting the information that they need to be able to work. So this is pretty much my day. It's always trying to see what we can do to try and enhance our internal commitment. And of course, try and make sure that what it is that we're doing is visible to the outside world.
Okay. So for people that don't understand what, you've said a lot of Jira, is kind of an issue when you're working in an IT industry. So Jira is basically like issue tracker or bug tracker, depending on what you want to call it. So when you see an issue, you escalate it in your Jira platform so that you allocate the issue to somebody, and the person you allocate it to can easily manage the issue or solve it, as the case may be. So so Ladi, can you help us with kind of what you do basically in your day-to-day activities?
Okay, so I work for an IT firm that basically what we do is to develop ethical compliance systems.
So would you mind sharing the name, sorry?
Business Keepers.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So basically ethical compliance systems like whistleblowing systems and business proposals, So a typical day for me would be to go to the office, and then we have a stand-up meeting where team members tell each other what we did the previous day and then what we're going to do today. And so we also have a ticketing system in my office, but it's not Jira we use RightMind, And so we have 3 types of tasks in my team. One is the bug fixing task. The other one is the new design task. And then the third would be the design switch. So basically we already have existing clients. And then we have an old system where we would like to switch to a new system. So that's what we call design switch. And then we have an implementation department. They are the ones that create the tickets. And so the tickets are assigned to you, but priority is always the bug fixing tickets where, the existing client, you need to make sure the systems are working correctly. Then we have the long time projects like the new design where you have to create new systems for new clients, and also the design. So it depends on the tickets I'm assigned. Basically, we work with JavaScript, React, SQL, and then a little bit of Java. HTML, CSS, basically.
So thank you very much. I appreciate the responses I've gotten so far. So there's been this buzz around IT recently, whereby everybody is feeling the buzz, like it's like if I don't learn IT, or if I don't learn IT, or if I don't get into IT, I don't think I'll be able to survive. Germany, once you learn IT, you get job. Can you go? A lot of buzz goes into this IT world. So this question goes to Oladini. Do you think must somebody really learn IT before he survives in this 21st century? Because that's the problem. I think we first need to address that before we even jump into the reason why people should learn IT. So do you think people should learn IT before they survive, especially in this country? Do you think it's a prerequisite?
For me, right?
No, it's for Oladini.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that it is good to have it.
Okay.
And that's why a lot of work is being done with children right now in school. In schools, basically, you're trying to get children involved in coding, basic program, basic, robotics, to try and introduce them to that new world. Basically, the world that they are growing in is not the world that we grew up in. Now, I did my first degree in Nigeria, and I know that if you said computer science, we just ran away because it was heavy. It was, it was old. And it wasn't really interesting. And now you see different faces. You actually don't even have to go to school to get online and learn many of these programming languages. Yeah. And I think the fact that children are now born into this generation, that it already exists, and basic courses are being made so easy for you to actually get into, it is a very necessary thing to have with you in your pocket. It's always an added value that you have with you. And if you're thinking of going into the IT world without having a background at all, it doesn't really help you. Technology at the moment is an enabler of many, many things. And being able to understand what is happening behind it is always a good thing. I think knowledge knows no bounds, but now you have resources to do a lot of research on what is currently available and what you can do with the ideas that you have. So, I mean, if you look at many of the startup scenes, for example, not all of them can program, but they have somebody with them that can program together, right? So you're bringing those synergies together for them to be able to work. Not everybody has to be a programmer. If you had a whole world of programmers, who will be doing QA, who will be doing user design? So, but you need a general understanding of what technology is bringing to be able to function in the world as we continue. I think in everybody's mouth right now, you're talking about AI. It's a buzzword, but do you know what it means and what it entails and what it will take you to?
Yeah.
So I think it's important to have that background knowledge. I don't think you need to be a programmer to exist in that world, but you need to be able to function in it and to be able to be engaged in discussions where people are talking about this.
It will still take us to another question, but I wouldn't like to ask the question now because people don't actually know that there are several career opportunities even within IT, but let's keep that in the freeze for now. We take that out later. So Mr. Babajide, you're someone I respect from a personal point of view, because we've not met, but I know you and I've emailed you on several occasions and you've helped solve issues for me. So I want to throw this question to you. So being somebody that is also in the entertainment industry, some people are scared, having double passion. I have a passion for IT, but hey, I'm a dancer. So this dancing I'm into might not also help me to develop, my IT skills. So now, how were you able to create a professional niche in IT and yet also create a professional niche or a passion in entertainment? So how are you able to mix the both, or how are you able to also blend or transition between, just give us a background of that, please.
Yes, definitely. It's actually funny. I wasn't expecting a question regarding my other career path. Well, for how did I come about this, or how do I kind of combine this together? it's actually easy. Well, most of us say we're busy, we have a lot of stuff to do, you know, because of work. Of course, you have your 9 to 5 jobs. You have to work 40 hours a week at least. So what I did was actually quite easy. I just took my time. I kind of like find my time. Whole DJ thing started 1.5 years. When I started, I made myself the promise that I would never let this new thing, this is my new passion, this is my new hobby, career, whatever you want to call it, to you know, come across or to take over too much time of my other career, which is my main career, being a software and IT specialist. So I told myself, okay, how can I solve this? What would I do to make sure they don't kind of like, you know, clash my appointments? So I told myself, anytime I have like some gig somewhere, or I make sure it's always going to be on a weekend. I would never accept a gig in a week, because if I have to work the next day, I don't want to play, you know, till 3 o'clock in the morning where I would go to work the next day tired. So most of the people that kind of like book me for my as a DJ, they know, okay, this guy only is available on weekends. So that means as from Friday, 17 o'clock and 5 p.m. in the evening, I just drop my pen or I close my laptop. I'm no more an IT specialist till Sunday, 10 o'clock in the evening. That's when I actually say, okay, I'm done as a DJ. Now I'm back into my real life, into my other life. So it's kind of like, you know, finding time and kind of like balancing the whole thing. And it's a lot of time management, of course, you know. That actually, it was when I started being a DJ, I actually used my calendar on my iPhone. That was when I actually actively started using it, because, you know, I had to like put down all my appointments to make sure I don't mix everything up. So like I said, it's time management. It's about taking time, making time out of no time. Yes, that's basically it. I just kind of like make sure, okay, my 9 to 5 job is from Monday morning till Friday evening. Then afterwards, I'm no more an IT engineer. Luckily for me, my new job allows that, makes that easy for me. I work, someone was asking in the chat room, I work for a company called Saint-Gobain. It's a very big company they have a daughter company here in Germany, in Cologne, called Autowehr. So they basically they produce car glasses. So I don't know how many of you drive cars in Germany, but I would say they own at least 35% of the car glasses you have. And so that's what we do. So we provide the software that allows the people that actually build or that install this car glass, that install the car glasses into the cars. We provide software for them. So the kind of like the interface between the client, the end client, and you know, the buying the glass from company. Basically, most of the workers, most of the mechanics, most of the shops we have here, they work only in the week. So that means Friday and Saturday, Sundays, they don't work, which I have a company phone, but I don't use it on weekends because nobody's going to call me. Nobody's working. My clients don't work on weekends. So that's actually easier for me, the DJ as well. My old company, it wasn't like that, because I was working for, my client was the German, Deutsche Lufthansa. So, you know, Lufthansa runs 24 hours 7. So that means the website, we were building the website and also the mobile application for them. So it had to be running 99% of the time. So if anything happens anytime, anybody can call me anytime. That was like 1.5 years ago, when I was still working at the company. So if I had started being a DJ at that time, it might also have been more stressful for me to combine both, because the customer could have called me anytime and say, hey, Jide, something is wrong with the website or something is wrong with the app. Please fix it right now while I'm playing, you know. So I think it's also about luck, about the company, about, you know, trying to find the time management, and yeah, that's it.
So I think the most important thing I discovered from your discussion is that you need to learn the craft first. So by learning the craft first, you know, you need to learn it first. You need to, that second passion you have, you need to maybe just go and keep it inside the freezer. We always have light in Germany, so nothing is going to happen to it. Keep it inside the freezer, you know, then learn the IT craft first. You know, after learning it, you can now come out to say, okay, I'm now working full time. Now I have time. you can now start bringing the other one back to start melting a little bit. So thank you very much. So sorry, John, I'm going to come back to you. I have a very heavy question for you, but now let me head to the lady first. Sorry, Ladi, I have a very important question for you.
Yeah.
Because, you know, most people that are here are interested in transitioning into IT. And we have a lot of people from business, you know, studying economics or studying food and nutrition, and even some people still studying engineering that are not still cool in IT. So my question is, you know, what do you think is the best strategy, or how do you feel, or how do you perceive it, or what do you think is the best way for people to transition into IT? You know, it's a very broad question, but just try to kind of narrow it down as much as you can.
Okay. So it's a good question for me because I think I transitioned because my first degree was actually in electrical computer engineering, you know. So for me, I think I was very strategic in the way I went about doing because when I was looking for an MSc, they might not have the opportunity, but they can also take online classes. But being strategic, I think, would be it, because I think a lot of people would just say, oh, I want to transition, and then they take online courses, and after that they are stuck, you know. So basically, I know of somebody also that did it successfully. And one of the pointers would be to network. You know, having mentors in this field is very important, because I remember always going for women in tech in Hamburg then, and then you meet a lot of women professionals in the field of IT. And even if you're not so good yet, they are willing to give you, you know, jobs, internships, and stuff like that in their company. So number one, I think getting the skills is good to acquire the skills. But after acquiring the skills, you know, what do you do with them? So basically networking is one of them. And then when you find yourself in jobs that it's not IT oriented, you know, you look for opportunities to be able to apply the skills that you have acquired. Because most times people would not give you an opportunity if you don't ask them, you know. So if you see an opportunity of somebody not being there, or there's a problem that you can solve, you can just solve it. And that would be a lead way of, you know, transitioning, you know. And I would also say that when you've acquired those skills, it's also important to also practice, like build projects online. And there are lots of challenges, because I know people that just, you know, learn skills online and they don't really use it to build real life projects. Even if you don't have jobs yet, then there are challenges online, you know, that you can work on projects and build a portfolio for yourself. You know, I think it's either there, not there, you know, here or there rather, you know. So I think you just need to be strategic, identify exactly, you know, the career path you want for yourself. That's another confusion with people that want to transition. They are just, okay, today I want to do data science, tomorrow, no, back end, you know. You need to be very focused on what you want to do and identify it earlier enough, you know, before you start the transition. Basically, that's what I would say.
Thank you very much, you know, for that wonderful opinion. Because I always have this feeling that you made a very important point. Networking and mentorship. These are the key things that people need to understand and know in IT. Reason why you need a mentor is because you have someone you look up to, someone you respect, and someone you always go to for questions. You find that there is this bond between you and the person. You know, there's this bond and relationship that exists between you and the person. So it goes a long way. So now, John, my question, I'm now back to you. You know, we have these occasions whereby it happened to me, so I'm a living testimony, you know, whereby people go to a lot of online courses. Hey, I started by learning Java. I will leave it. I will run to JavaScript. I will leave it. I will run to Python. You will learn 100 programming languages. You will still leave it and still come back to the one you started with. So now the question, John, is, you know, because while I now understood what my problem was, and I understood that it's not just about learning the languages. You need to be able to focus and then start developing things based on the language you're learning. So now the question, John, is a two-in-one question. The first one is, how can one easily focus on maybe learning a particular language, and how can someone easily start building something, no matter how small, with the language he or she is learning? So that's like the question for you, John.
Okay, the example you gave, I think I fell a victim of that when I was still trying to learn programming.
Yeah.
Because then I think then I'll go online, I'll check like the salary of a Java developer, the salary of a C# developer. I'll compare all of them together, and then I'll start learning Java today. Tomorrow I'll just pick up C# because I think C# developers get more money. But then I think along the line I discovered I wasn't really focusing, and yeah, so I just had little knowledge of everything, but I couldn't really do something really reasonable. But I think where it changed was I think when I was in Germany here, I got like an internship, and in the internship I was just given a single task: work on a chat application with Angular. Just work on the chat application with Angular. And I started working on that, and I discovered Angular became interesting for me. So I picked on Angular and continued to build my expertise in Angular. As at then, my back-end knowledge wasn't so strong, like working on the server side, it wasn't so strong. But then I was so focused on working on just front-end technologies. And by front-end, I specifically chose Angular. And I was working with Angular, HTML, and CSS. So the beautiful thing in Germany here is you don't have to be a master of all for you to be able to get a job. A lot of companies are interested in people who just know HTML and CSS. You don't really need to know so much of JavaScript. And those companies are willing to take you as an intern. And whenever you get a job as an intern, you can always build from there. Like my current job, I was employed as a front-end developer. I never did so much with C#. I just played a little bit when I was still learning. But like a deep expertise in C# I didn't really have. But then when I got into the company, I started with front-end, but then gradually I was being exposed to the back-end tasks. And gradually you just discover that, oh, you already have an expertise here, and you're already growing on that, maybe technology using, yeah, depends on the company. So what I would advise is, don't spend so much time trying to learn so many programming languages. A programming language is just a tool. What's more important is your reasoning pattern, how you think about solving a problem. That's more important than the programming tool. So pick up JavaScript or maybe Java or C#, but just focus on one technology at a time. Try to master it, and also try to understand, pay more attention on your problem solving skill. How can I solve this problem, rather than focusing more time on the technology? And I think with time, depends on the company you go, there's always a high tendency that you could be exposed to other technologies. Yeah.
So I want to also I know it's possible for Babajide to also have some opinion to add to this. So what do you think is what do you think? Is there anything you have to add with regards to what John just said now?
I mean, he said it all. So when I was studying, I also needed some practical knowledge, experiences, right? Because that's what matters at the end of the day. Here in Germany, you have to be able to prove you can actually do what you think you can do, or what you say you can do. So back then, when I was studying, I would actually go to the internet, I would go to YouTube. I wanted to learn. I was interested in languages, right? So HTML. I tried to understand, the concept behind HTML. And then I moved on from HTML, I moved on to CSS. Fortunately or unfortunately for me, the job I got when I was still studying was more of a backend. So I was working at the chair for robotics. So I was into more of robotics programming. Then afterwards, I got my first job after my studies. So my first job was Java. So I actually never had any chance anymore to actually work on what I had been learning, what I had been practicing at home, which is, web technologies. So I was doing mainly back-end stuff. So why am I saying this? I mean, it's always good to know a lot of programming languages, right? But I think as John said already, what most companies want is someone that understands what programming is, that can think for himself, that understands how things are connected together. So it doesn't have to be specific to technology. I mean, it's always good because they always want this person that has a knowledge or an experience with some specific technologies, but mostly they're just like, okay, are you willing to learn? Are you willing to learn new things? So if you're really willing to learn new things, of course, and then a lot of those are actually going to be open for you. And it doesn't also make any sense to learn a lot of things because you can be master of how did they say, master of nothing, but I've forgotten how this saying goes. So it's like, a lot of stuff, but actually you can't really know that, you don't know them quite well. You can't really use them when it comes to the practical part of it. So it's always better when you're interested in a technology, focus on this technology, learn it, because at the end, it's you that matters, like how you can actually use this programming thinking that matters for your company, because they know, okay, this guy can program, so it doesn't really matter what kind of program technology is bringing in, and he's ready to learn. So it's always better when you know something or when you're interested in something, just focus on that and try to learn that perfectly. Then you can actually use that one to sell yourself very well. So it doesn't make any sense telling your company, I know 100 programming languages, but then, okay, please do something for us, but then it's like you kind of, so like I said, it's always good to actually focus on something and just stay with that and yeah, try to be the master of that.
Yeah, thank you very much. The problem with this is that I think it happens to majority of the people, except people that actually have a very high level of focus. Because someone like me, I'll learn one, then I will hear that my friend got a job and the job is a PHP job. Hey, PHP is paying, I will dive into PHP. I will start learning PHP. I won't even, maybe by the time I get to the else if part of the PHP, hey, I will look online, I will see Java. Java is the free course on Java. Okay, let's learn Java. You find out that you are kind of, disrupting yourself and disrupting your process. So I have a very important question for you, Oladini. But I think, how am I going to go around it? Okay, let's do this. First, I think you being a consultant, you are kind of, let's see your opinion on this, because it's not all about being in this seminar to learn stuff about IT. A lot of people don't have the, or how do I put it, don't have the platform or the opportunity to even get a place to showcase their skills. Because irrespective of what you learn, even if you like, go to YouTube and sit down there and learn for 100 hours. You can develop yourself. I'm not putting it that way, but I'm looking at it's only like 40% or 30% out of the 100% can develop themselves, start building products in that way. But the remaining 60 or 70, we really need someone like me. We really need somewhere to start from, like someone to take me in, to even start by building a real life project. Because if I don't see that motivation, maybe to start building something. So, so now my question goes to most of us when we came to Germany, we had this feeling that lager is the way. People we saw made us believe that now lager, if you don't do Amazon, you're on your own. That's the truth, because that's what people we met made us believe. But if we had the idea that, you can actually come today and tomorrow you start throwing out your CVs, irrespective of that you might throw 200 CVs and get 199 like that each, it doesn't matter. But, you definitely you know that this is something you can start applying from. So my question is, how best, Oladini, how best do you feel that students or even graduates can be able to approach this IT industry and be able to get something out of it, even if you're talking about jobs or if you're talking about opportunities? How best do you think that we can maximize the opportunities in this industry? Because it's not just about being in a seminar to learn about jobs or something. So how best do you think we can maximize the opportunities in this industry? How best do you think we can go about or go around getting jobs that can serve us or service us in this industry?
I think right now, if you're a student, the advantage that you have is to take an internship. There's no way you can get a foot in the door if you haven't been, especially if you're in Germany, you have the language hurdle. If you're lucky, then you have a company where they do speak English and German. But if you're not lucky, it might be a company that is only German. So the advantage is if you can get an internship, and many of them right now are a working student position, this gives you the opportunity to actually get into the company and see what it is that they do. And once you're in the company doing an internship, you need to start to network. You need to start to meet people. And for me, it's just started, but if I meet somebody who's African and I ask them, so who are you? Where do you come from? What are you doing? Do you have a mentor? Do you know what's happening? You know, and try and see whether we can help make that connect. Do you know what you want to do later on? Do you have any thoughts of where your directions to go? Because Ladi also said that you need to be strategic about what you want to do. And because the job market is full, and then looking at what COVID has done right now, you need to understand, do you have a niche that you can offer? And where can you go with that? And when, you know, you're already too far away from creating a product or talking about a product, you haven't gotten there yet. And if you have lots of ideas, that's also difficult because you need to be able to bounce your ideas off people who are knowledgeable, people who are in the field, maybe people who are also in startups. So you need a community. You need to be able to access a community whereby you meet people who are like-minded, who probably already have experience in this area and can help you network. So Ladi said she usually went to the Women in Tech events in Hamburg. It's a very good thing. I'm sure if you get online, many of the sessions are now virtual, and you can't network face-to-face anymore, but it has such a high value, meeting people, getting to understand what it is that they're doing. And this is something that I can highly recommend. Never be shy to ask people to be a mentor. If you're on LinkedIn and you see people that you think they would be able to help, why don't you just try and see whether you can reach out and say, look, this is what I'm trying to do. I've seen what you've done so far, and I'm looking for somebody to be able to help me there. LinkedIn is a very, very big community. And I think this is something that you can leverage. The job situation, unfortunately, I think, as much as IT experienced people are being searched for, you have a market, but they're looking for limited people. So how do you make your CV stand out, you know, with lots of people? This is also where maybe a mentor could come in and say, look, you need to tweak your CV so that it looks like this and this and this, so that you're targeting a specific, maybe a specific group. So I think mentoring, getting an internship as a student is very, very important.
So while you're still here, let me quickly ask you a question on the chat box. Someone is asking how he's interested in doing an internship in SAP. Mm-hmm. So how can he go about the application on that? Is there any long leg? You know,
no, there's no long leg, but on our website,
long leg like you referral or using you as a referral, you know, you need to increase.
Yeah, so www.sap.com/careers. We post working student positions, we post internship positions. So please check on there.
Okay, so just one last question, because you're still on the career aspect of IT. So someone is asking, is it advisable to apply for internship from first semester that is studying a bachelor's degree in computer science?
Well, the question is, with your study, can you afford to have that time? You know, I think you have 90 days to work as a student.
No, you have 20 hours per week. So
20 hours per week.
2.5 days in a week.
I think as long as you're a student, you can apply. Mm-hmm. It would depend on what it is that you're doing. And of course, I think you and the person that you're applying to, they need to be able to find some sort of a common ground. So the onus is on you. Do your research. If you see that the internship is something that you're interested in, that you can grow in, reach out to them.
All right, thank you very much. So now I come to you, Ladi. There's been this question. Okay, now assuming I am a novice in IT, I don't even know how to write hashtag in HTML. I don't even understand what hello world is. Well, I've not even heard of Lorem Ipsum before. So the question is, how am I going to start? So what's the first thing for me to do? What's the first language? Or what's the first thing you advise the person? As in, like, I'm a novice, I don't know anything in IT. I'm just sharing, some of these things you're saying now, some of these terminologies we're using here is kind of foreign to me. So what is the first thing for me to do to be able to grasp my foot and pack this money that I'm talking about in this IT industry?
Okay, I'm of the opinion that even the most complex concepts, right, they are built on basic ideas. And that applies to programming. A lot of people think that programming is such a big deal, it's very hard to understand. But I tell them, just understand the basic idea behind programming. And then it's easier, you understand the logic, the if conditions, and your conditions. So for me, if you understand programming, first of all is to identify the language you want to learn, because basically languages are just syntax. It's just like your normal language, right? And so if you understand the logic of programming, transitioning from one programming language to another, it's not a problem. So first of all, identify the language you want to start learning. And then you focus on learning the basic concepts behind the programming, your loops and your whatever. Then HTML, basically it's the simplest thing to start with. That's a good place to start as a beginner before you go to maybe developing functionalities for applications. You'll start with maybe the user interface, the front end, where it's easier to use the HTML tags. Those are just tags, and your CSS, basically. So I would say, just to wrap up my point, that it's important to understand the basic ideas behind programming. That's what's most important when you're starting out. It's not the language that you're using to learn it, but the basic ideas behind the programming after
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I would also like to let our listeners also know that the questions, you can post your questions on the Q&A box, and also we're also monitoring the Instagram, the YouTube chat box. So for any questions that might pop up, so we acknowledge people that are both live here and both live on YouTube. So now I want to ask this question to John, because John says that his normal day-to-day life goes on coding. So now the question is, I don't know if you're able to shed light on it as much as you can find. No, so the question is it possible for someone to be in an IT field? Can I survive in an IT without knowing how to write program? Is it possible for us to survive? For someone like me, maybe I have, for example, the next guy, not me. I don't have blockhead. Maybe there's a next guy that has blockhead learning syntax that is involved with programming. So is it possible for the person to survive in an IT field without needing to write code? John?
I think it's possible because IT doesn't encompass only programming.
Okay.
There are also visual tools that you could also use to bring up websites, like also build up CRMs and applications. So for example, there's WordPress. It's like a click and drop tool you could easily use to build a website. It sounds that companies that look for people who just understand how to use click and drop in WordPress. I think that's also IT, if we look at it from that direction. There's also SharePoint. Yeah, these are tools you can use to build up content management that people can use. And a lot of companies look for SharePoint developers, not developers, SharePoint designers. Because, for example, SharePoint has different parts. A part you can program, a part you can just use click and drop. A lot of companies look for people who can just do the click and drop in SharePoint. So I think that also other alternatives to just writing codes. And yeah, I think companies are in search of those opportunities for those skills also.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I have this friend that I don't know, he's very, I don't want to call it lazy, you know, in learning IT. So you find out that he said that I want to learn Python. Okay, that's good. I understand you want to learn Python. He said, okay, I want to learn front end. Okay, I learn HTML now. He said, no, HTML is difficult. If HTML is difficult, is it Python that you will learn easily? So anyway, that's just a joke. But you know, I think it's best that people understand what they actually want and then stick with it. So that leads to my next question to Babajide. So Babajide, being okay, maybe I have two questions, but let me throw this. Being in the general circle, because I know you are a full stack developer. So which track or which aspect of development, let's assume someone wants to be an IT, which aspect of development would you want someone to consider first? Should I start from front end or should I start from back end, or should I, there's a lot of ending to start from. So which end should the person relate to, or should the person go with data? So what's the best advice, in terms of consider both profitability and then availability of jobs in the labor market?
That's a very interesting question. So there's no recipe for all these things, right? So what I always, it depends on what you're interested in. So for me, as a full stack engineer, a full stack developer, well, for those that don't know, full stack actually means, for me, that's what I tell people. Full stack means the combination of back end and front end. So basically, it's the full packet when it comes to web technologies. Me as a full stack developer, what I tell people is you have to think of the future, right? So you have to see where most of these technologies are going to. We have, back in the days, there was this separation when you're into back end and you focus mainly on back-end stuff. You don't really do CSS or HTML. And when you do front-end stuff, you don't really write C# code or Java code, But today, things are moving fast and they're moving towards full front end. So you have a lot of technologies where actually you don't really need to know anything when it comes to back-end. You don't really actually need a back-end technology to be able to run some back-end code. So there's a lot of technologies out there today that actually provide both possibilities, So I would advise people to always, work towards this, because that's going to be the future. People are bringing things together. Back in the days, you always had you had someone that was writing Android code, for Android apps, and you have people that were writing iOS code, Xcode or CocoaPod. But today you have hybrid platforms. Actually, you write the code once and you can use it everywhere. So things are coming together. So that's the future. Future is like bringing everything together. So that's why I always tell people, try to see use technologies that have that have like this very big prospects in the future. So you have, for example, Node.js. Node.js it's been around for 6-7 years, and it just kind of took a very exponential popularity within the technology world, because you can actually write Node.js code and you wouldn't need to write a different HTML, front end code, and also a different one for back end. You write everything together. Everything is compacted together. So that's where I see, that's the future I see. You learn technologies that actually they're meant for the future. Learning them now, and yeah, that's what I always tell people.
So I think you're actually making a very you made a very valid point, because I think from my own personal point of view and advice, I also feel it's very important for people to start with something they can see. For example, if I'm starting with HTML, I can easily write hello world and I will refresh my browser. Wow, it's here. So I'm the one that wrote this. So, starting with something you can see increases your motivation too. I believe when your motivation is actually high.
Yes.
Or what do you think about that?
I totally agree with you.
Not to direct people here, in case of our
I
audience,
would
not to
also
direct you.
tell people to be careful. Yes. I would also always tell people to be careful when I mean, it's always good to have this in German, it's called Erfolgserlebnis, like you see something, you write something that's actually working and you feel happy about that. But at the same time, you have to be careful, because if you write, for example, you write hello world and it works, but you don't really understand what made it work. You don't understand the basic, the concept behind this hello world of a thing, then it's like, it doesn't bring anything. You can write code, but you don't understand how this code works. Then it's like you actually haven't learned anything. Your learning curve is actually going down instead of going up. I mean, yes, it's always good to see things are working, but at the same time, you have to be very careful to make sure you don't fall into this trap that at the end of the day you haven't learned anything. So,
okay, thank you very much.
Please try to make sure when you're good at something, try to be good at, try to understand it.
Okay, thank you very much. So Oladuni, so there's this thing, we Nigerians, we like money. And like money, what I mean by liking money is just on the average, like we have a lot of needs to take care of with money. So, and I believe that it's also important we let people know and understand what it means in IT. So now what I mean by that is now, being in the IT field, this questions is, I believe, is still going to be helpful for even people that are already in the IT field. Part of the advantage of being in the IT field is, I think it helps you with the ability to easily convert your ideas to products in such a way that maybe I think of having an app that will compare prices of airlines. So you already know if this idea is feasible. If it's feasible, what do you think is going to take me? Stuff like that. So now the question goes to you, because this was actually how Facebook and the rest of the startup we have today was actually formed. So the question goes to you, how best or do you think that IT people or people in the IT can easily or can confidently convert ideas to products, or how do you think they can go about it? So Oladini, please.
I don't think that IT people are any special than people who are startups, for example. I mean, I don't think you have to be an IT person to have a certain idea that that makes sense and should be converted into a product, right? So it's not a limitation. I just think maybe if you're in the IT world, maybe you just have better connections or people you can speak to try and maybe talk about that idea and see how maybe the company can help in realizing that. So SAP, for example, has an intrapreneurship program whereby if you have an idea, this idea can be tested internally. And if the idea does make sense, then you can be put aside for maybe half a year to work on that, that product with a team together. The product doesn't end up being yours, it's SAP's, but you actually have that possibility to do something like that. SAP has this thing called also 1 billion lives, and whereby they ask all regions, what ideas do we have to improve people's lives? What could that be? And then people come together, sit together, brainstorm. There are design thinking sessions on whether you actually have a prototype, which is where you would be headed to, and whether this is feasible and what can be done to it. So, and I believe that we're not the only ones who have such initiatives. Many of the companies have the possibility whereby they say, if people have ideas, come together, maybe an internal hackathon can be set up so that people take part in this, and this is then done. So the fact that I might be somebody from marketing with no IT background, but I still have a good idea, I need a team of people who have the experience to turn that idea into a product. So I think one is not an island, and one should not think that one has to go it alone. It's always good to talk to other people. Look, I have this idea. And another thing is, there's so many startups, there's so many ideas out there. How do you know that your idea hasn't been done before? It doesn't exist, but and this is where it's always good to be able to find out, okay, you have to do a lot of research. You have to do a lot of research to find out, does this thing actually exist? Will it make sense? Who's my target group? Will I actually be able to make something with that product? And will my customers be interested in that product because I am addressing a certain need? So I think, this has the pros and cons of this have to be weighed, but it doesn't stop you from being creative and going ahead and innovate.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer. I think it was comprehensive enough. It doesn't matter if you're in the IT field or not, whether you're in IT or whether you're in non-IT. But before you go, let me quickly ask you this question by one of our audience. So he said that can I be an IT? Can he or she get an IT-related VEX student if his study is not related to IT? So I think it's a question that almost everybody will have.
Yeah, I think it would depend. I mean, if you look at the internships or the work student positions, and you feel something like this because Ladi spoke about skills that you have that you bring from somewhere else. Can you transfer those skills that you have into that position that is open? Not all the time, all the skills that you have will work, but there's some that are not linked to being programmer that are still valuable in work student positions or internships. So don't let that be a stumbling block. Try it out and see. If you read it and you're interested, there's nothing stopping you from applying.
Thank you very much. So since you connected Ladi to this conversation, let me now hook Ladi again. So Ladi, so this question goes to you. We've had let's even talk about our ladies now. So we've had cases or scenarios whereby ladies feel like not even cases. Study shows that if you go to most development teams or most ITs, you find that maybe if you have like 5 guys, you might see like a lady. These days it's even getting better, So how I have this feeling that most women have this phobia of getting into IT generally, because they feel it's a male-dominated industry. So how do you think is best especially for women in IT, to kind of show themselves, or maybe a young lady listening to us today that might be thinking of having a passion in IT, how best do you think he can be able to show himself, or how best do you think can be able to go about his journey, in IT, being a lady specifically now?
Okay, this is a tough one. Usually most ladies don't want to go into IT because they have this perception that it's tough and difficult. But example would be a friend that is trying to get into data science now. Is every day we have to have a pet talk about continuing with our boot camp, So they run into challenges and they want to give up easily, but that shouldn't be the case. And I think for ladies in IT already, it's very important that also get proteges, so that we can mentor them, because most times why ladies find it difficult to get in is that they don't really have a lot of mentors to put them through, when they start courses, and they give up very easily. So hopefully that my friend gets to graduate from our boot camp anyway. But for ladies, I think, like I said, anybody can learn anything, once you understand the basic ideas behind a concept. So the important thing is basically you need to be interested first, The problem is that most of them are not interested. But for ladies that are interested, pick the interest and identify what you want to do. Is it the user interface you're interested in? Is it the functionality, creating functionalities? Is it, and it's not just programming. There are lots of other career paths in IT too. There's database administration, there's testing, there are easier ones that you can go into. And so for me, I don't know, it's really tough because talking to ladies, even trying to motivate them to do IT, it's a problem. So, but hopefully, I guess with networking, mentorship, and we have more leaders in IT. Amazing.
Yeah. So our ladies, we are kind of encouraging you to engage and enter IT. I was talking with a lady the other day, so I was kind of trying to encourage her that, for me, I kind of feel that ladies, if we are 2 guys and a lady that walks into an interview hall, and let's assume that all of us are in the same level, and in our Git repository, we have maybe the same project. I feel that, there's a slight more likely chance for the lady to be hired. Reason, most companies are actually looking out for gender balance in their teams. So when you're a lady and you are good, so you definitely get somewhere. So I encourage you to kind of go for it and then push out. Don't feel like this is a male-dominated. It's no longer a male-dominated industry. So
can I jump in there?
Yeah, of course.
Can I jump in?
And I know you would like to. I wanted to point
There's a long background why we didn't get into IT.
There is not. Okay.
I think generally, so I always use myself as a yardstick. As I said, I don't have an IT background. And I personally was always scared of, oh my God, IT means you have to be good in math, you have to be a scientist person and all of that. And nobody really, at that time also, I didn't have any mentor to tell me, no, actually it works differently. So I grew up with that fear that anything math or science was not mine. Now I interned at SAP. I was a language student. I studied German and French. And the reason they actually took me was so I could speak to German and French customers and tell them to please open up their systems so that our engineers could, pick it up and work with it. So that was the only function that I had. And I was like, but this can't be it. Because then I was saying, okay, I would like to be a lecturer, but IT is not for me. And I got into it and I started to figure it out. And I was like, and I didn't need math. So I think there's a need to sort of break down this, I don't know what to call it, this thought that IT is super difficult. It isn't. And I think depending on your character also, if you're a very strong character, you're not going to allow the fact that only men are in your team will take you away from your course. It doesn't matter who's on your team. You want to excel, you know what you want to do, and you'll go ahead. Some of us tend to be a bit, a bit more conservative because we're not sure what we can do. And then we present with body also that we're not really sure what we can do, although up here we're really sharp. So we need to sort of maybe retune our own way of thinking and present a picture of, we're strong, although internally you might be crumbling. It's just one of those things that you have to work out with yourself to be able to get to, where you need to be. So I encourage us all, don't be scared. There's so many facets to IT that are open to everybody that you can have a look at.
So thank you very much. This season is actually getting very interesting and hot because a lot of questions are coming on top while we're answering these questions, but I will take our time to, return, back to several questions that are popping in. But to Babajide now. So, we've spoken a lot about having a mentor because this was one of the first problems I faced in IT. I think I'm still facing it. And also, before I forget, I need to chip in something to what Oladini said, about ladies too. Before I continue to Babajide, I think my supervisor in the office is a lady, and she's a very strong lady. She's like the only lady in my team of like, there are two ladies in a team of like 10, 12 people. So, and you find that she's very strong, and she's not someone you can ride. That's one thing I love about her. And so it makes you want to even encourage more ladies to join IT because I believe they will do well. Because one thing I know about ladies is that once they focus their attention on something, if they don't achieve that thing, just like a lady bugging like wants to get something, if he focuses attention on that, and he must surely get that thing before he leaves that particular place. So I encourage our ladies to kind of dive into IT. It's a very nice place to be. So now, to Babajide, we've said a lot of things about mentor, having a mentor. Now, people don't have time because, a lot of people are even looking for people to mentor them because talk more of mentoring people because it takes time, attention, and you most times your own resources to mentor. So now, how best do you think we can go about this mentorship of a thing? And is it possible for maybe, I'm asking after maybe we just take 60 seconds to chip things into it. Is it possible for us to be able to, take in some mentor? Because a lot of people are asking me, mentor, is it possible? Then if it's possible, how can we go about it? So Babajide, now over to you. How do you think one can go about getting a mentor in this field? Because I know it's very important, and we've said it that it's very important, and it's one of the primary things you need to start with.
Yes, definitely. I also need a mentor to start with. I think everybody needs a mentor because it's just part of it. When you're doing something you want someone that actually looks over you to make sure you're not going the wrong way. So there's not a particular way to to find a mentor, to choose a mentor. What I did was I used to have a mentor at my old company. So it wasn't like I wasn't planning to have one or idea. I wasn't like looking to have a mentor. So what happened was when I joined the company, I started working on the code, and I saw there was this very particular there's this guy that had this kind of way he wrote his code. So might sound strange to me, but actually I fell in love with this artist for me, because I see developers as artists because they're very creative and they create art in a way. So I saw this guy write this code and I was like, wow, this is beautiful code, and I talked to him. I was like, hey dude, I've been seeing the code you've been writing over the years, and I love it so much, and I would like to learn from you. I would like to make you my mentor. So this was kind of like what worked for me. It was like, yeah, sure, why not? So we always met once in a month, where we just talk about things, how he would give me some advice I had at the job. It's different. For me now today, I don't really say I have a mentor. I just kind of like have people I look up to. For example, I have some particular pages on YouTube I follow because I know these guys are really good, and they pass on the message like it. So to see what this person you kind of like flow along with, and so there's no way to actually say this is how to find a mentor. You just have to you have to be lucky, and sometimes you just have to find search extensively, and try to see different people, weigh them, see what works best for you, and if you're lucky, write them up, and they might be willing to help you out, and they might actually have the time for that. And mostly everybody keeps saying, I'm busy, I'm so busy, I don't have time. But I think there's always a way to always create time, to always take, like I said, I have another career on my side. I just kind of took my time for that. So I don't believe in anybody saying I don't have time. There's no way you can be busy for 24 hours every day. So there's always a way to find time for, if it's just 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 1 hour a day for someone once in a month, it's possible. So like I said, just search, try to find someone that actually you think is the person that will lead you to the next stage of a career, and then talk to them, and hopefully the person is ready to work.
So because this is a very, very important topic, you answered my question, but you didn't answer it fully. There was a part you skipped with a comment line. So I will come back to it. I've uncommented the line. Babajide, are you willing to take people as mentors? Because a lot of people are willing to apply. If I create a Google form now, I might get more than 1,000 applications. So the question will go to all of you, because we need people that will encourage our scholars. No, the problem is that I don't want to exclude the fact that we have unserious people. I'm not excluding that fact. And you being a mentor to somebody, it's you dedicating your time and resources. Because why I always put resources, because anytime you devote to teaching somebody is a resource, is money. So, you find out that if the person is not, reciprocating it by delivering value in return to what you are teaching the person, it doesn't make sense to you. Why am I wasting my time with you? So now, but let's assume we have the serious, all of us here are serious. So are you willing? And if you are willing, so if just I need yes, then we can talk back door how we can be able to connect you with scholars that are really interested in looking for genuine scholars and serious scholars that are really interested in. So are you willing? So we skip to John, we skip to Oladuni, then Ladi. So let's even know, at least we can balance how many people between both of you, and then throw it around. Because it's not just telling us mentor, mentee, that's the way to start. I don't know anybody. Me, myself, I need a mentor. Although we also have people that will help. So are you, how do you go about, are you willing to take up some people from NiSIG? to help at least few number of youths.
Yes. I'm going to sound very generic right now.
Don't
yes,
sound
of course.
political.
I could always find time and talk to them. Not to be sincere.
No, that this is recorded.
When you're working with. Yes, it's okay. I mean,
no, I need to know. So you know that anything you say it will be. I can always replay it to you in the group.
Used against me.
Yes.
I mean, if you're working with something, if you're investing your time in something, you have to make sure it brings value to you as well. So both parties have to gain from this thing. I'm always ready for discussions. Always, I'm really always ready to listen to people. Yes, I'm ready to just find time for people. I would definitely always find time for people to answer questions and yes.
Okay. So what we do? Okay, thank you. Yeah. So John, briefly, because I will come back to the other answer question. Mentorship, John. Whether you said something or not, are you willing? Because we're learning from you here, so we need to continue this learning after now.
Yeah, I think I'm open to help people.
Okay.
But then I think it's mostly during the weekend.
Of course. Thank you. So Aladuni?
I would be open.
Oh, thank you. So Ladi?
I am also open to.
Oh, Jesus. Thank you, Father. So you see, if I turn to something, I might even a motivational speaker, might making enough money because I'm able to. So now, what we do, Scholars Online, what we do is we'll try to organize this in such a way that it won't be burdened to all the presenters available here. And we'll try to get more IT guys involved. First of all, know the number of people that are interested, then get more people involved, and we try to distribute them according to different people so it can work. So we'll create something within within this week and within this coming new week. We create something this is not a Nigeria political talk, we create something and we hook them in. So thank God that this season is recorded live. So at any point they didn't respond, I will send an auto reminder of email with a little clip of where they said I will to them every morning by 6 a.m. I will send it to your inbox. So having said that, let's Ladi, I have a very important question. Someone is asking a very important question in the chat box. So the person asked that I don't know how you might even as a programmer, you might have scenarios whereby you need to either do some aggregations with data. Sometimes, whether you like it or not, just one or two data manipulations, but you might not be purely a data science person. But this person said that I'm a lady and I'm very much interested in data science for some time now, but kind of struggling with it is not clear. So he's now trying to know how to be able to work around it and how to be able to, work his way, especially with data science now. That's what I'm asking, because a lot of folks are also interested in data science.
The question is not clear to me. It's struggling.
The question is, the buzz around data science now, when it comes to, I don't want to take you down the lane of machine learning because that's a different crazy lane altogether that we might come back to. I think Babajide would be the best suit for that. So now, but the thing is that he's a lady and he's struggling with learning data science. So how best do you think he can be able to work around it, or what's your best advice for him? Or her, sorry.
I would need to know what the struggle is. Is it with exactly what is the person struggling with understanding the syntax or the programming language they are learning or the tools they are working with,
Yeah, it's not well defined, but can you give a general overview of maybe someone interested in going into data science, how you can be able to go into it?
Okay, for data science, I think there are some important tools and programming languages that are unique to data science that generally it's being used, and that's I think Python and R, and so if you want to be a data scientist, one of those two, it's very important, to learn. And so my advice would be to learn one of them, and also it's important to be able to use structured query language. Learn one. You need to know, database to be able to query the database. But if it's a challenge of learning the programming language, I would advise the person maybe they could explore database administration, which is close to data science, you know, basically. That would be my advice.
Yeah, you know, and one quick thing to chip into that is that I can remember those days when I was learning Python, no way. So I now said, okay, maybe it's database management. I now rushed into it. Someone told me, come out of there. Is now so now one thing, if you want to stick to something, is I advise you to stick to it. You know, whether it's raining, whether it's snowing, you know, stick to it to kind of get the best out of it. And by the time we'll be able to distribute everybody to someone they can always call up to, I think it will be a very good avenue also for us to be able to learn. So now, John, you know, I have a question for you. Now, this question still goes around IT and coding, because most times we find out that people are, you know, not just confused with a lot of things that are going on in the IT industry. We have like I can't remember how many programming languages that we have now. We've answered this question, but I want us to be more direct, if possible. I can't remember how many programming languages that we have now. Even you can go online and Google how to create a programming language and create your own, is your problem. So, but the question now is, what do you think now is the most okay, let's even give it top five most marketable languages. At least let's give top 5 most marketable languages that people can jump into and start and know that if I do this language, you know, at least I'm guaranteed of somehow getting something or some place to start with. What do you think is your top 5? Okay, let's go. We'll go on everybody. Let's know. Okay, top 3. What's your top 3, John? Then let's see what everybody's view of top 3 programming languages that people should dwell into.
Yeah, if you're a beginner and you need something very fast, like a very fast job, I would advise you to go with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript because they're the easiest to learn, in quotes, the easiest to learn, and the demand is a bit high. So I think going with those 3 good.
Okay, Oladuni.
I second him. HTML, CSS, JavaScript.
Okay, Ladi?
I think they've said it. That's the easiest to learn, you know. If you want to start, that's a good place to start.
Okay, Babajide?
All right, so everybody has been talking about front-end technologies or front-end programming languages or scripting languages. I think what is also important and has been important for the last 30 years is Java, because I see from, I think the last time I checked was 80% of technologies used out there, they have something to do with Java. So both for desktop application or web applications, you would always have to use Java somehow. So I think it's very, very important to learn Java. And like I said before, because of the future, a lot of things are actually moving towards web technology. So I actually see, of course, you have to learn JavaScript to be able to work with Node.js, which is like, the future for me. So I see you have to definitely learn JavaScript and you have to learn Java. Those are 2 different languages. They have 2 different paradigms, and don't compare them together because they both have Java in the names. JavaScript is mainly for web technologies and Java does everything. And the third one, which is my favorite programming language, which I also see a very, very huge potential in the future, is Ruby on Rails. Ruby is quite similar to Python. For me, I started doing, I've been doing it for 1.5 years now, and I think for me that's the best programming language ever because the application is, you can apply it to almost everything, both to desktop application, to web applications. And so for me, number 1, so at the top is Java, then you have JavaScript, then you have Ruby. And unfortunately, I wrote to Vincent, but I have to go now because there's a private issue I have to tackle, and I don't think I'll be making it back before time. So thank you guys very much for the questions, and I'm really sorry I have to back off now, but
no
I have
problem.
to really go.
We got something before you go. Thank God
came in just now, so it wasn't like I prepared for it.
It's okay. Thank you very much for coming here. We appreciate you. Thank you very much for being here. Yeah.
Thanks for the invitation. Thank you so much. And thanks to Duni, Ladi, and John. Thank you so much. And have a nice evening.
Yeah. So, John, I have a question for you. But before I go into the question, I need to clear something. Someone asked the question, if we are familiar with, there's this online learning school called Ready School, if you're familiar with it, and if it will help you get a job after the program. So I think the question is also related to this question I'm trying to ask John, because even if you like, for example, when we're in Nigeria, there's this buzz around NIT, and all these big IT schools, it's okay to go there. But the question is, you need to take something away from there. It's not just going there. You can go there. For example, I can go to Ready School, and once I'm graduating, because I'm learning things that are not even part of the curriculum. I'm learning on my own. I'm building myself. Just like two people going to a language school, one person might end up speaking perfectly than the other person. So it's not a function of being in B2 or being in C1. The guy in B1 might be speaking fluently than you, So that's my own point of view. So now that comes to you, John, the question. So what are learning platforms, or what are the best platforms you think that beginners should use in learning this IT? We've been talking about it. What are the best learning platforms that you think the beginners can use in hooking up and learning this IT?
Yeah, for me, I think as a beginner, when I was still learning, the first place I would go to would be YouTube. Yeah, because on YouTube, you have complete projects. Like someone sits down and make a video of how to build an application from the beginning to the end. So as a beginner, I don't really have to think so much about what's this person doing. What I just have to do is just copy what the person is doing. And yeah, so initially it might not make any sense to me, but then along the line, when I keep on doing it, I end up discovering, oh, this person did this because of this person did this because of this. So it's like a backward engineering. You go forward without understanding it, then you go back and then you be like, oh, this person did this. This is why the person did this. So I think my first platform I'll always go to would be YouTube. And to learn programming, it's not difficult, but it takes time. It's a language. When you spend a lot of time with German, learning German, you could become average with German, even if you're not so good in languages. So it's the same with programming. If you're willing to spend 3-4 hours a day watching YouTube videos and just doing what you're seeing online, I think it could, in a way, go a long way to helping you to really learn it. So that's one approach I use. Another place I always go to is Stack Overflow. So that's like my second home when I was still learning. But along the line, I discovered the time will come when you don't really need to use Stack Overflow so much. But for learning, you can always go to Stack Overflow. Just copy a code from there. As a beginner, it's not expected that you have to understand everything at the beginning. But along the line, it's always good to go back and really understand what you're doing. But just to get something working, you can always go to Stack Overflow, copy a code from there, and then just plug it into your application. Then I think there are some platforms like Tutorial Points I also use. I remember that I used that when I was also learning. Yeah, there are a lot of free online resources. And for me, I don't really think you really, to learn programming, it depends on the person. From one approach, I think you just need to spend time on these resources. Yeah, if someone continues to teach you programming, it will be difficult for you to understand. It's more important to spend more time on your own self, going through these resources, and then I think by so doing you could get better.
So thank you very much. Those days when we are still learning programming, Stack Overflow used to be our best friend. But these days, I believe that when you start getting used to programs, you understand that most days you go on Stack Overflow to do the program documentation. Can even you that those things are there. You can even solve your problem from there. But it's still okay for a beginner to also go there to catch up on one or two knowledge. So this question I have two questions. Okay, let me first go to Ladi. So if someone asks, I would have answered, but let me throw it to you. Someone asked, what is the difference? It's a two-in-one question. What is the difference between Java and JavaScript? There have been a lot of misconceptions on it, whether they're related or not. Let me throw it to you. Then someone asked also, what is your thought on Kotlin as a language? We all know what it's used for, but for the knowledge of one, what is the difference between Java and JavaScript, and then what do you think of Kotlin? Whether it's okay for him to go and learn it or stuff.
Okay. JavaScript is basically a scripting language used in front-end development, mostly. And Java is an object-oriented programming language that you can use in almost all applications, whether system applications, even in front end, you can use a bit of Java in it. So basically, JavaScript uses more for front end, and Java, you can do most of it. Though in JavaScript, you also have objects, but they are different. The concept of objects in JavaScript is different from the concept of objects in objects. Basically are like okay, let me not go into it.
Just break it down to
objects and JavaScript are basically just maybe a parameter and its value. Meanwhile, in Java, basically, when you're talking about object, you're talking about like a person, you get, with its characteristics, basically, would be an object. Meanwhile, in JavaScript. So the concepts of both of them are different, and they're used for different things. Java can achieve more than JavaScript. That's my opinion. But Kotlin, to be sincere, I don't know much about it. I've not explored, what that can do, basically, so I can't say much. Maybe John can help with that.
Okay, no, John, any idea?
No idea too.
So, but I know that Aladdin, any idea? So I know that Kotlin is a language that is used for mobile development. So basically, in Android development, in Android app development, if you want to use the native Android SDK application development, the platform, so Kotlin or Java are the two basic languages that are accepted there. So that's basically what Kotlin is used for. So, but it's not like a programming language that is generally used. So, but one thing I would advise the person asking is, that these things are, you meet a programmer that understands like 10 programming languages. So you learn the basic programming language, then you start picking the other ones on the road. So like, for example, if I have a task in the office that needs to involve maybe Ruby, for example, I need to learn Ruby, but it wouldn't take me much time to do that because it's just the syntax that I need to understand. So just find one that is okay with you, learn. This Kotlin, if you have need for Android development, you can pick it up on the road and be going. That's why you see programmers, they're always on their laptop and they're always learning. So we learn every day. So it's very important. And also, I remember someone said, just a joke, that the only similarity between Java and JavaScript is Java. The Java that is in both of them. That is the only similarity. So both of them are not related in any format. They can be used to achieve almost the same thing, but there are a lot of difference between them that they are not related, So Java is a full stack object-oriented programming language, if I'm not mistaken. So this is it. So it's not related in any way to JavaScript. So going forward, Oladini, this question I think is for you. The question is, someone asked, so it's a two-question in one, so I'll combine it for you. So what, as a programmer, we all have these online interaction platforms that we use, like we use Slack, sorry. And in our Slack, we belong to these different groups that we also belong to that helps. So now, so the question is, what are the various online interaction platforms that a beginner in programming can use so that he can be able to share his problems and stuff? This is one. Then two, what do you think about the concept of bootcamp and where can people get bootcamp to even attend? Because that's another problem, What do you think about it?
Well, both questions are for me a little bit. I don't really have much experience there. So since
Okay.
I'm not a programmer, I can't really tell you about the platforms where they meet. I do know that Slack is a very common one for many of the programmers today.
Okay.
But as I do not move in those circles, I cannot give you much more information there. And as for the boot camps also, I actually don't have much insight into boot camps that are currently happening. Somebody mentioned the Rady School, for example. I do know that their focus then was to try and, I think they had all focused on getting refugees also coding training. So they were targeting also a specific area at that point in time to try and upskill people. If you want to work, I think either you take a course from one of the online platforms like Coursera or Udemy or whatever, because these are things that reflect in your CV, in your LinkedIn profile, for example, or that you can use also in your CV. Boot camps might be good, but apart from the people who are in those boot camps, who can vouch for you when you want to look for a job? It might have brought you the things that you need to be able to move further, but I do not know currently how they are working. I know that boot camps are more common with startup organizations where they have, they have investors, they have, different people to sort of help them with their ideas. But in this sense, I actually don't have much insight. Okay,
so I think let me apply a redirection to John. So John, what's your thought on the question? So the question is is there any what's the platform for interaction of between programmers, especially for beginners? And also, what's your concept of bootcamp, or do you think this is necessary, or is there any way we can be able to find some online?
I think one of the major platforms you'll be hearing is GitHub.
Okay. No, I wanted to get to that, but continue. So just I wanted to also explain the concept of GitHub to also beginners, so you can squeeze that in at once. That was part of the question I intend asking you, but just answer it. Go on at once.
Okay, yeah. So before I answer the question, one thing I would like to say is I discovered most recruiters for IT positions here in Germany, maybe especially for startups, they love it when you have like a GitHub link on your CV. So when you have like a GitHub link on your CV and you can show the recruiter, hey, these are the projects I worked on my spare time. It really makes the recruiter very happy and interested in you. I've been to interviews where there was supposed to be like a coding test, but just because I could show the recruiter, hey, I have this on my CV, on my GitHub, I've done this. The recruiter was like, whoa. And at that point, the offer was given. So I think it should...
I want to bridge you a little bit, because you shouldn't forget that we have people that don't understand Hello World. So what is GitHub to even start with? So people will know what GitHub is before they think it's a bank account like N26. So what is GitHub? Just shed like 60 seconds light on what GitHub is. Then
okay, so GitHub is like a platform. It's okay, for people who don't understand, just look at it as a website. But not only a website, it also does many more things than a website. It's a repository, like a container where you can, where you can put your code. So when you code, you just take the code and then put in that container, and then you can collaborate with other developers via that container. So I write a code, I put in the container. Someone writes a code, they put in the container, and then at the end we have one big application, which is in the GitHub, which is in the repository. So GitHub is mainly for collaboration and also for you to save your code there. So the beauty of GitHub is, let's say something happens to my code and it gets lost, I can easily go back to GitHub and then just pull my code again, and I have my code back in my computer. So that's what GitHub is, and yeah, so it's beautiful to have, and it's one of the tools I think you're going to be working with if you plan to maybe get into the IT field. And yeah, so as regards the question for the bootcamp, I don't really know much about the boot camps in Germany, but I think I know of a friend that got into a boot camp in Berlin, And I think he studied mathematics, and if he had a boot camp, I think he was able to get a data science job. So I know there are boot camps in Berlin, but I don't really know examples of, yeah. And the beautiful thing about boot camps also is you get to solve projects there. And once you solve projects there, it's a good way of building a portfolio also. When you solve those projects, put them on your GitHub, maybe host them somewhere that someone can see. Yeah, it could.
So sorry, I have after this, I have like 3 important questions I'm going to ask before we round up. But before then, while you are saying something about bootcamp, I saw Ladi shaking his head, and I know that a lot of scholars will also be interested in knowing if you know something about GitHub or stuff. So please help us if you know. It's very important. You know, some of us would want to go for GitHub because we want to get a job after, if possible, to work out something.
Yeah, for boot camps, I know it works for some people. I know a couple of people that have gotten jobs after they finished the boot camp. But I think the most important is to identify how best to learn. You know, for some people, you know, learning in the boot camp doesn't really help because it's too fast for them, you know, and so it's a problem. For such people, I would recommend online courses like Udemy and, you know, the others. You know, they really have good courses that you can do. So you identify what the best way you can learn, you know. And then for Git repository, I think is a remote hosting service for codes, basically, where team members can collaborate with their codes. So it's important as a programmer that you know how to use Git and the Git commands. You know, the Git has their own unique command when you're using it, you know, but it's not really a problem. Once you're a programmer, Git commands shouldn't be a problem. You know, even as a beginner, you would need to push your codes remotely so that you can access them anywhere you are. That's the beauty of, you know, using Git, because you can access them anywhere you are since it's a remote repository. So that's what I would say. So for people considering going to boot camps, I think they would need to identify how best do you learn, because I know some people have complained that the boot camp teaching is too fast for them, while some other people have coped, you know, very well there. But at the end of the day, either whatever you choose to do, it's important to be able to transfer the skills that you have into a real life app, being able to build real life, you know, applications. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for that. You know, someone asked a question. Let me just quickly respond to the question. So the question was, is there any boot camp in Lagos? Because we have viewers listening in from Lagos. So one thing about Lagos is that it's very massive. Some of us learned IT or even started our IT journey from Lagos. So when you go to CC Hub, so get in touch. There are a lot of hubs now in Lagos, and those hubs do, you know, lots of programs. So get in touch with CC Hub, Ideal Hub, all the Yaba. So that Yaba axis is like the programming world of the headquarters of programming for Nigeria, you know. So get in touch there and work with them. I think it will help you a lot. So I have 3 questions. So let me start with Oladuni. So we'll be able to start rounding up from this point because we have less than 9 minutes to go. So while you're answering the question, you can even give your closing remark at once. So the first question is to Oladuni. What are the other career paths in IT? Because I don't know, everybody's talking about programming. Must everybody program?
No.
What are the other career paths that we can explore? People that have somehow that they can't learn syntax or stuff like that. What are the other career paths that they can program and they still be in IT and they still be fulfilled and they still earn enough pepe to settle the bills, you know?
I mean, look at digital marketing.
Yeah.
Digital marketing, I mean, let's not even go high. You know, if you can Instagram, many companies right now are pushing content on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Facebook. And many of them have younger people now who are in their teams who are running communications, for example. You need people who are in sales, who are able to position the products that you're selling with the customers. You need QA engineers who can test your code, for example, but you need user designers who can make beautiful products that our users find, you know, easy to consume. Then, of course, you have people, for example, you have directors who are in there. You have the local teams that are also in there. You need to be able to have customer-facing teams. Customer management is also important. So if I look at what my company currently has, we have different roles. We have people who studied psychology and philosophy who are working as work students with us, for example. So no barrier is too high, but we need to come away from, to work for an IT company, I definitely have to have programming skills. This is not the truth.
So I think this is a good news for a whole lot of people, because there's been everything programming. So it's not a must. You mustn't really be good at programming before you work in an IT firm. We have a lot of even some product managers, some engineering managers are not so wonderful in writing codes. They're just there to understand the concept. That's what they need to do. So,
I guess you have to imagine it this way. Somebody who writes code is not the same person who can help you put your product outside, because mostly engineers are known to be sort of reserved and behind, but then are they the sort of people who will be engaging with the customer and sitting down and drinking coffee with them? No. So you need different roles for different things to make a company whole.
Yeah. So thank you very much. So John, so quickly, John, so some people are trying to start a protest in the comment section. When you mentioned about programming languages that you love, they say nobody mentioned Python. So does it mean that the Python that we have been learning is waste? So now I wanted to clear the air, John, so clear the air about this Python of 18. Is it that learning Python is a waste, or is it that I should stop learning the Python that I've started learning, or what do you think? Just clear the air, because I know a lot of us have started learning Python and is adding a lot of value to us.
I think learning Python is not a waste. In fact, it's one of the most sought after skills.
John, you're changing your mouth here.
No, I'm still
okay. Continue. I'm joking.
Sought after skills here. But why I mentioned HTML, CSS, and JavaScript is because I can pick up HTML and CSS in 2 months. Once I dedicate myself to it, I can learn it in 2 months, and I can hit the road and get a job with that. Just pick up something online, just make something very simple with HTML and CSS and push it on your GitHub. And you start applying for jobs, and it's easy for you to get a job with that. You don't have to be so good. So that's why I mentioned those first. Python is a bit more difficult. But once you are also going with Python and you think you also, it's going good for you, I think it's also a very good programming language you could run with.
So I believe at this point we can tell them to off their mic, because Python is very important. If you're learning, if you go online and you can go on the amount of money that Python developers are being paid is kind of huge. And me for one, I also think Python is not that difficult to work with, because being able to have a lot of libraries to incorporate in a language makes it very easy to work with, where you don't have to build a lot of things. We have beautiful soup and PyTorch and all of them. So it makes it very easy. So I think Python developers should keep on learning Python, and being good at what they do is very important. So to Ladi, this question, I think is for you, being a developer. So what are the projects suggestion? Because, for me, if I had someone that told me years back that, okay, start working on this project, I would have started working on this project. So what are the project suggestions that you can give someone that is learning to use as a path to learn, to develop himself? What are the projects, real life projects that are reasonable and useful, if it's possible to the person? So what are the suggestions from your own point of view?
Yeah, for a front-end developer, I'd say having a lot of website developed from scratch, in your portfolio, it's going to be a good thing to do. And then maybe if you want to develop an application, for me, it was easier for me because I just kept my school projects, right, on my GitHub, but for people that do not have the opportunity, I know there are a lot of sites that have projects online, right, that you can even collaborate with people. You could also, do that, check online for projects that you can work on and put that on your portfolio for people that are working on full stack development. For the data scientists, I really don't know much about that to say anything, So, but I'm sure there would also be data science projects online, you know.
Yeah.
I know a friend that did one, she saw one online, and that's what she did for her thesis, you know, to measure a temperature in the room without nobody being there. You just know what the temperature is. You determine the temperature based on the lights and things like that. So I know there are interesting, you know, projects online that you can find to build, to put in your portfolio.
Thank you very much, you know, for that response. So to add into what Ladi also said, I also believe that having something we are passionate of, maybe for example, building a product that is solving your own personal problem, will also ginger you more to learn. For example, if your problem is that your calculator doesn't perform a particular function, you can decide to learn, how can I even build a calculator? So you can even start going online. You will learn that, okay, you can build a calculator with Python or stuff. You can learn. So that way, building a product that you can use is also a very, you know, good way for people to learn programming. And I also advise you make use of the internet. You know, it's always there for you. Google is there. Google is your best friend as a developer or as an aspiring developer. It's something you can always go to and be able to connect at every point in time. Oh, this my H key is not running. Why? You will see millions of responses of people that have had similar problem with you. So you should keep in mind that for every problem you've had, or for every problem you're having as an IT person, someone have had it before you. So, and someone have responded to the person that have had it before you. So the solutions are there for you on the internet to grab. So before I go, I want to beg our speakers to please, if it's possible for you, just drop your LinkedIn handle or your Twitter handle for our followers to just follow up. Then me personally, I will follow up with the mentorship that we agreed on. So we'll be able to arrange people and give you smart individuals and scholars to be able to tutor, because we are trying to create a NiSIG that will be able to have several professionals and several individuals that we'll be proud of, and will always be, they started from here and add value to, because this for us is always about adding value. So I want to personally, on behalf of NiSIG and everybody, appreciate you for being part of this program. And I want to thank you personally for coming. Thank you, John. Thank you, Oladuni. Thank you, Ladi. And also I want to say a very big thank you to Babajide that has already left now. Thank you very much for being part of the program. Now to the viewers, remember, after now, we have our tea break. Immediately after our tea break, the NiSIG Got Talent finale, whereby we're going to announce the first, second, third, fourth, and the fifth participants, and other shows continues immediately after. So stay tuned, and I don't think there's need for you to get anywhere. Thank you very much, and I'm still Obugo Vincent Chinedu, webmaster at Stroke PRO NiSIG NRV, and I hope you enjoyed this season, and thank you for being part of this season. Thank you very much. Thank you, my dear speakers.
Thank you so much for the very educative session. Thank you to all our speakers. Thank you. And moderator Vincent, thank you so much. I think that was a great session, even though I didn't follow 100%. I was in between stuff. And yeah, thank you once again. So